Hello everyone. In this tutorial, let's write a C++ code that prints the following shape, and then we will modify it to print the following shape to the right here. So let's start with this one. So a square, a hollow square. We don't have any stars inside, we only have stars at the edges. So in this program, we're going to ask the user to enter the side, and then we will print the appropriate shape. So if the user enter 6, we'll print this shape with 6 stars on each side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then also here 6. And there's a space after each star. So as we always do, let's simplify it. So let's start with, let's assume the user will enter 3. So let's call it side equal to 3. So if the user enter 3, we want the following shape. So 3 stars on each side, and each star is followed by space. So let me type here S to denote space, and then here we have space, 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 and then here we have space and space. And of course here we have spaces. So we're gonna need 2 for loops. So in the first for loop, we wanna cover every single row. So let's write the first for loop, int I. So we're gonna start with 1, as long as I is less than or equal the number the user entered, which is side. We want to increment I plus plus. So it starts from I equal 1, 2, and 3, so it covers every single row. So now inside it, we need a for loop to print stars. So also so think of this one, this is for the rows, to print every single row, and this one for the columns. So for this one, let's initialize it with a j equal 1, and then the condition, as long as j less than or equal than side, increment j plus plus. And then here we want to know when we have to print stars. So as we see, if we are in the first row, or in the last row, or in the first column, or in the last column, we want to print a star followed by space. So we're going to use an if statement. If I is 1, or j is 1, so let me use or in C++ is 2 straight lines. J is 1, or I is equal to the side the user entered, or j is equal to the side the user entered. So we want to print cout, want to print a star followed by space. So I'm going to give it some space here, semicolon. So else, if we are not in the first row, or the first column, or the last row, or the last column, so what we want to do, we want to print 2 spaces, because this has been taken care of in the first if statement. If we are in the first column, we want to print a star followed by space, so we'll be left with 2 spaces. So here we want to print double space. And then when we're done with this for loop, we want to start a new line. So let's try to explain to see what happened in this program. So let me do it here. In the first iteration, so we have side, we agreed side is a 3 for this example. So in the first iteration for this, the first for loop, we have I is 1. Is I is less than or equal than side? Yes. Then we go to the next for loop. So we have j equal 1. Is it j less than or equal than side? Yes. Then we're going to execute what's inside this for loop. We have an if statement. If I is 1, so we have I is 1. We don't have to continue. So we're going to print out a star followed by space. I'm going to denote space here. And then now we're going to go back to this for statement. We're going to increment j. So for j equal 2, we want to check the condition. Is it still less than or equal than a 3? Yes. So we're going to print another star followed by space. And then we're going to increment j to 3. And we're going to check the condition. Still true. So we're going to print also a star followed by a space, but it doesn't matter. This space will be outside. We're not worried about it. And then we're going to increment j to 4. So this condition is not satisfied anymore. So we're going to continue our code. We're going to start a new line. And then we're going to go to the second iteration here. So now I equal 2. This is the second iteration. We're going to start j equal 1 for this for loop, for the column for loop. So is any of these conditions inside the if statement true? Yes, j equal 1. So we're going to print a star. I'm going to print it here, followed by space. And then we're going to increment j to 2. Now, is j less than or equal than side? Correct. But is any of these conditions correct? Is I is 1? No. I is 2. Is j 1? No, j is 2. Are we on the side for I or j? No, they're not equal to 3. So what we're going to print, we're going to print two spaces. We're going to print, because this if is incorrect, so we're going to move execute this else statement. So we're going to print space, space. And then now we're going to increment j to 3. And now we're going to check, is it j less than or equal than side? Yes, then we're going to execute what's inside this for loop. We're going to check this if and else. Any of these conditions correct inside the if statement? Yes, j is equal to side. So we're going to print a star followed by space. So this is star followed by space. But we're not worried about those spaces because they're on the outer side. Let me erase them so I eliminate the confusion. So now for the third iteration, we are done. We get to this point, we start a new line, and then now we go back to this for loop. So now I equal 3. Then we're gonna move to the next for statement. J, we start with 1. Is 1 less than or equal than side? Yes. Any of these conditions inside this if statement is true? Yes, we have a j equal 1. So we don't look further. We print a star followed by space. And then we increment j to 2. Any of these conditions correct? Yes, we have I equal side, because side is a 3. So we're going to print a star followed by space. And then we're going to increment j to 3. And then we're going to look, any of these conditions are true? Yes, I is equal side and j is equal side. So we're going to print a star followed by space. So if we look here, we printed a star, 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 couple spaces, star, 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 star. So now we know this program will work. So let's go and implement it in Visual Studio C++ and see how we can do it. So we need the IOStream library using namespace std, so we don't have to write std every time we write cout or cin. So inside the main function, so let's start with int side, which is a number the user will enter. And then we're going to ask the user to enter the length of each side. So we're going to use a cout and tell the user enter the length of the side of the square, colon, space. And then we're going to save this number wherever the user enter. We're going to save it inside. So cin side. And now we're going to write the for loops. So we said for int I equal 1, as long as I is less than or equal than side, we're going to increment I by 1. And then inside it, we need another for loop for the columns. So we said int j equal 1, as long as j is less than or equal than side, j plus plus. And then here inside it, we need the if statement. So if I is 1 or j is 1 or I equal to side or j equal to side, then we're gonna print a star followed by space. If none of these conditions inside the if statement is true, so else we're gonna print double spaces, space, space. And then when we're done with this for loop, this curly bracket is belong to this for loop, so we're gonna start a new line, because after we print each row or line, we're gonna start a new line. So C out to start a new line, either /n or end line. So this is it. This should work. So let's try to execute it. And then we'll enter 3. This is as expected. So let's try to enter a larger number, 6. This is as expected. So let's enter 10. So it's working as expected. So now, let me switch to this. So now what if we want to print a square filled with the stars? So what we're going to do simply, we're going to simply print a star followed by space in every single row, every single column. So technically, we're going to get rid of this else statement and if. So let's go back. So simply, we get rid of these two. We don't even need this condition here. So for the second for loop, we're going to print a star followed by space for every single line. And then after this one, we're going to start a new line. So let's try it. Let's see what we're missing. We're missing a closed curly bracket for this for loop. So this should be here. Now let's debug it again. Now it's executing successfully. So let's start with the 3 as we did. This is what we need. Let's run it one more time. Enter 5 as expected. 10 as expected. So it's working as expected. So this is how we can print a hollow square or a filled square with stars. I hope this was helpful on for loops. Thanks for watching.
Enjoyed this video? Subscribe to the Computer Engineering Notebook for more tutorials on computer architecture, embedded systems, and hardware design. And hit the bell to catch the next one.